Hello, everyone. This is Eric from Etiquette back for another live stream. And tonight we've got a fantastic live stream. We've got Sam and Erica from Breathe English joining us, and I'm so excited to talk to them. Before I do that, I'm going to wait a couple of minutes and wait for everyone to join. And we've already got Julie here, and she's like, let's dive in. Hi, Julie. Good to see you. And A says, hello, I'm waiting for you. Well, yeah, I'm very excited. It's always nice to have other teachers on here to share their experiences, to talk about what they're doing, especially when they've got such a platform to talk about things and they share interesting ideas. You know, I think as teachers, we should often try and talk to other teachers to gain some ideas and techniques and talk about their experiences too. You know, I feel the beauty of YouTube is that we're able to talk to each other and learn. So that's what I'm so excited about doing. Yeah, guys. So if you're new here, put your name in the comments down below. Tell me where you're from, just like Amy did here. Amy from Turkey, I presume. Ali, good job. And Ali said Turkey again. Merhaba from Turkey. And you know, the other thing is such a global audience. We've got teachers from everywhere, and it's so exciting. During this live stream, I'll be talking to Sam and Erica. So if you've got some questions, we'll get to them. I'll pick out the best ones and we'll talk about it. Try and make it difficult questions too, and then I'll give it to them. Especially if it's about teaching, their experience, and some tips and techniques. I definitely want to get their view on teaching, where they're from. They're teaching in Spain at the moment, but we'll talk about it in a second. Hussein, hi. Muz, hi there, from Cambodia. Mahmoud from Bangladesh. And Lorenzo from Toronto. You finally found me. Excellent. Yeah, guys, by the way, we're here every Sunday at this time. I do a live stream, and sometimes I'm fortunate enough to have some teachers to join me. Okay, without further ado, let me quickly introduce our teachers for today. Sam and Erica, hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Thanks for having us.
It's so good having you. So for our viewers out there that don't know you, can you please introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Erica, and this is Sam. And we have a YouTube channel called Breathe English. We make content for English learners, also for teachers. And we are also starting some online courses.
Exactly. That's our current status.
Okay, where are you right now?
We're in Spain. We live in Valencia, Spain.
Valencia. And how long have you been there?
Sam's been here for 5 years. I've been here a year. I'm originally from Minnesota in the U.S., and Sam is from Washington State.
Wow,
Not
both
Washington, D.C.
Yeah, there's a big difference between Washington State and Washington, D.C. So you're both English teachers. How did you meet, and when did you meet?
Well, we met coincidentally through Ultimate Frisbee. So Ultimate Frisbee, we play here in Valencia. We play on the beach. In Spain, it's very popular on the beach. I've played almost my whole life. Yeah, Erica came to the beach one day, and she had played before in college, right?
Yeah, years ago. Sam is my coach, my Frisbee coach.
Yeah.
I played Frisbee for months, and then months later, I wanted to start this academy online, and someone suggested to me to do it with another person, which is like the best suggestion I've gotten in a long time. And immediately I thought of Sam. She popped in my head. I asked her, and she was on board. So we started doing videos together and making the course.
Great. It's great to have someone for feedback and to share extra ideas and to share the workload. But it's so funny. I've never played Ultimate Frisbee, but I live in South Korea, and it's really popular. I know, especially in the city where I am, Daegu, it's very popular. Lots of foreigners play it. It's actually, and it's nice to have a group of people to go out with and to socialize. It's come to the point where they kind of call it Cultimate Frisbee because everybody is so involved.
I haven't heard that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's
incredible
fun.
how international it is. Like when I lived in China, there was also Ultimate Frisbee group in it, and it's always a mix of like, you know, it's a mix of Chinese people and then foreigners. Like it's incredible.
And everyone can play, and it's such an activity where you run around and you can feel your skills improving. It's so cool.
Yeah.
You're both in Spain. Can you tell me about your teaching backgrounds?
Well, I'll start because it's less impressive. I started teaching when I moved to Spain, so I didn't pursue a college degree or anything, a certificate in teaching. I basically wanted to live abroad. I went to live abroad, and I learned on the go and on the job. So I was in classrooms as a teaching assistant, and slowly began to teach my own classes, and a lot of online teaching, a lot of private teaching. But that's, you know, I'm sort of the, you know, the uncertified,
She's amazing.
yeah, I've learned a lot as I went, but
No, listen, Sam, I've seen some teachers that I've trained, that I've studied, that get into the classroom and they struggle. And then I've seen a lot of teachers that they don't have a teaching background, but they put themselves in there and you know they learn on the go and they try new techniques, and it's all about the students. Before we go to Erica, what kind of challenges did you face starting to teach? How was it? What were some difficulties that you had, or you know, how did you overcome some of the challenges of teaching?
yeah, I mean, so I think the biggest challenge was wanted to use English as much as possible, right? Like I didn't want to speak in Spanish in the classrooms. I wanted the kids to think about, okay, when they spoke to me, they had to speak in English and they had to at least try. And so, but it was hard because they just, you know, I was with elementary school kids who really didn't understand me. So instructions and stuff like that. So just finding the balance of like, okay, when to use the target language and when to make sure everybody understands what's happening. And for me, I have a theater background. So I studied theater and I did theater as a kid. And so I found the biggest thing to help me was body language because it is universal. So I just got into the habit of being very visual. And I think, and the kids they enjoyed it because I was like being kind of silly or like, you know, trying to get them moving and them active. And that was just kind of how I broke through that barrier.
Do you think coming from a theater background helped you in teaching?
Definitely. I think teaching is like a mini theater. I mean, like, you know, for those of us who like attention, you do have attention on you, but it's also, you're thinking in theater, you think a lot about psychology, you think a lot about the story and the essentials of the story. And for example, if you were doing a piece without language, like how do you express your ideas and the story behind that piece, just with your body, just with the things around you. So that kind of, I definitely think that helped me a lot.
You know what I really like? So guys, by the way, check out Breathe English on YouTube. You do a lot of role plays and skits, and I can see that you really enjoy it. You make it fun for the students. I really enjoy that. And I know, you know, when you do theater, it's all about, you know, presenting and showing off and also speaking well. What kind of tips could you give a teacher? Because I've met teachers that are so shy to even be themselves, let alone take on a character and be more expressive in front of students. Do you have any tips for teachers that, you know, maybe they struggle with class, you know, with showing them off in the classroom with a classroom persona, or you know, the what's the word I'm looking for? But yeah, do you have some tips for teachers when it comes to presenting?
Yeah, I mean, I'm more of a shy person more than Sam is. And actually, I was watching one of your videos from maybe it was a month ago or more recently, and you mentioned like, I am Eric in my life, but then I turn into teacher Eric. And I think also a lot of performers, like if you listen to like Beyonce, she has a stage persona too, where she's like Sasha Fierce or something. And so I think you kind of can take on this stage persona. But at the end of the day, it's the more animated you are, the more confident you are, the more you embarrass yourself, the more your students are going to feel comfortable to to try new things with the language, because learning language is, it's can be humiliating, or people feel that it is, and you need to take risks. And so if you're a teacher and you yourself are not taking risks, then your students don't feel really
You're
comfortable.
ultimately a role model for your students, not just in the language, but also putting yourself out there. So a role model for how you want them to behave, you want them to also express themselves and be comfortable. Now, Erica, how about you? What is your experience as a teacher?
Yeah, so I've been a teacher for maybe 12 or 13 years. I did get my teaching license in Minnesota. So it was ESL, K through 12. I taught kindergarten through third grade ESL at a school in Minneapolis. They were mostly Somali Ethiopian students. And then I worked in China for 2 years at an international school. And that was a total mix of, Chinese students, but also it was a big kind of port city. It was in Xiamen. So parents from Europe, from Australia, the US, all over, and their kids went to that school. And that was nice because it's such a mix of different languages that, like, unlike the Spanish schools here, like where it's more homogenous, the kids a lot of times had to use they had to use English. And then so after China, I went to Colorado, to Denver, and I actually taught adults. So I worked at a nonprofit that helped immigrants prepare for the citizenship exam, and also we had English classes. So I had a whole range of skills and backgrounds of adults learning English, and I really enjoyed that too.
Wow, that's a lot of experience. Have you found a lot of differences have you noticed a lot of differences between the students, Spanish students versus the Chinese? And well, like you said, it's a homogenous versus like having mixed students that have to communicate. And how did you deal with it?
Oof, yeah. That's always a challenge, I think, no matter how experienced you are. But yeah, there were some differences. Like, I think the people from more like Latin American countries are a bit more oral in they're more comfortable practicing the oral language. And then kind of the Korean Chinese students, they're more like, studious, and they always do their homework. The Spanish speakers didn't necessarily do their homework, but then you get them together, and I would mix, I'd have the Korean with the Mexican person, and obviously they have to speak English to do the activities together. But I think also they rub off on each other. So if I make them do skits, they see the really outgoing Argentine woman is kind of a role model for the more shy, maybe, especially like Asian culture, or different cultures that are more shy, Asian, Russian. So they kind of
it's
play off each other.
It's so nice when the students embrace it and they try and act and do it, try and be someone else and try and be that person. So on your channel, you do a lot of skits. I've seen you do a lot of role plays. It puts the students outside of they're not themselves. They can be someone else, and it makes them more free to express what they think. So what kind of role plays and skits do you enjoy using in the classroom?
In the classroom? Well, so we're doing a professional English course right now. We're coming to the end of it. And I think one of the most useful tools has been role plays. So we'll have people like in an interview, interviewer, interviewee, human resources, two colleagues that are having a conflict, or in a business meeting presentation, and they have to give feedback or ask questions. So those role plays, we give our students a little bit of info, like this is your goal, or this is who you are, this is your perspective, and they really have to either resolve a problem or find out some information or something like that. And I found it really useful.
I think it's so useful with any activity that you do with your students. You have to give them some idea of where to start and kind of what you want them to do, but you also give them space to be creative in their own way. Now, I've kind of I haven't looked at the audience that much, so let's quickly go to some audience questions. And one of our favorite viewers, Kev, He always gives me a difficult test every week, which I appreciate. But since we've got guests, he's being very polite and nice, and he said, "Why breathe? Why breathe English?" And ladies, while you answer, I'm going to quickly go through and look for some difficult questions for you.
Okay, good. All right, Kev the Rev. I guess I named the school, the company. It originally actually was Horizon English. I think naming things is really hard. So I also play in bands, and one of the hardest things about starting a band is deciding on a name that no one else has.
Yeah.
Why? I just like the sound of breathe English, and there's also a saying in English like eat, sleep, and breathe.
Whatever.
Ultimate Frisbee.
Yeah.
Or...
It means you're like really into something really dedicated. And that's what when I heard the company, I was like, oh yeah, eat, sleep, breathe English. Like if you want to learn English, you have to really, integrate it in your life.
It can mean a lot of things. When I first saw the name, I thought of meditation, and not just taking it on as a study, but relaxing and enjoying it. That's a thought I thought.
That's lovely.
I kind of related
like
to.
that too.
Yeah.
And that brings us to BM, one of our other viewers, and he said, "Eric, you're lucky to have two pretty guests. Ask them about their favorite moments in their life." Okay, well, that's interesting. Well, I think that's very broad. So let's build it around teaching. What are some of your favorite teaching moments that you've had in your life? Or just it could be from the last week or so. What is something that stood out? Maybe something that happened in the classroom, something that you enjoyed, something like that.
Well, I actually have a kind of a proud moment. When I moved to Spain, I was in a very small town called Zamora, and I started working with. She was 6 years old at the time. Her name is Marina, and we would meet like twice a week, and just to play games, because she was 6. So it wasn't like a lot of class, but her dad did a lot of work with her, a lot of flashcards, a lot of vocabulary from a very young age. And she always spoke well. And we met with each other over 2 years. And then during the last 2 years, we also would meet online and just sort of, chat or play a game or sort of push, play a word game. And she is in her first year of high school now. It's like middle school, high school. She is 11. Wait, no, she's 12. And and she passed the B1 exam already. So it's like, I don't know. I'm just very proud of her. Like, it's not really my accomplishment, but it's like seeing someone over the past 5 years reach a level where like a lot of adults, aren't there yet. It's like, I'm just so happy for her and excited for her.
Like that's a major win. And I think those are great, those moments that, you've achieved something. But I think, as teachers, we should also hold on to these smaller ones too, maybe a shy student in class actually asking a question, or just the way they interact with you. So no, that's a lovely story. I really like that. How about you, Erica? You've got any stories to share?
There's so many. One I think of is when I worked in Colorado, we had, there was a very small Afghani population. So we had a few like Afghani women in our classes. And one of them, Nakiba, she grew up during the Taliban. She's not that much older than me, like in her 30s, had like 6 children, but never learned how to read or write in her own language either. And her goal was to get US citizenship. And so she started from nothing, learning English, learning to read, in the first language she had ever learned to read in, learning to write. Her writing, it looked like a 5-year-old, would write. But she kept at it. And I was also the volunteer coordinator. So I coordinated volunteer teachers that would meet one-on-one with these students. So she had her tutor, she worked really hard, and she passed her US citizenship test.
Amazing.
And then she just kept studying English. And she'd be like, "Teacher, look at my writing. Like, it's good, right?" Like, she's like, "I've gotten better." So that was really cool. Like, even if you look at that person and you're like, "Oh, like hopeless," like that's not true at all. Like, she put in the work, she had the help, and she met her goal.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, no, it's so nice. We as teachers, we meet so many people, and to see them achieve their goals, it just makes it worth it. Now, Anita is here, and she asked, "May I ask a question, guys?" Of course, everyone, you can put your questions down below. I'll try to get to most of them. Now, one of the things, actually, Kev has another one here. He says, "On a bad hair day, it's raining, and no milk in the fridge for morning coffee. Oh, horrible. Then how do you motivate yourself?" Now, one of the videos you did recently was mental health conversations, and I think that is something that's been going on with teaching. I go onto Reddit and I see a lot of teachers struggling, teachers especially, with the workload, the pressure, and with parents, students. They've got so many responsibilities and things they have to do. So I would ask you. If you've got any ideas, how well, not any ideas, but how do you deal with the stress and the pressure that you get as a teacher? That I'm very curious about how you deal with it.
Yeah, that's a great question, especially like, it can be frustrating. I am right now doing like small classes with little kids, like 4 years old, 5 years old. So we're not even writing, it's like, it's all verbal, it's all oral. And like if a class doesn't go well, or like I just feel like I planned something and they were just like, nah, I'm not interested. It can be really frustrating. I think the biggest thing is to talk about it with somebody else. So like even a non-teacher, and like have that person remind you, like, no, it's hard. Like what you're doing is hard. Like you have these limitations, like whether they're 4 years old or the circumstances of the class or whatever. If there's like people who are sort of doing infighting, whatever. So other people can remind you, like, hey, it's okay. Like you're not going to make steady linear progress. Every class is just going to be better and better. And then personally, physical exercise is just my like pure like stress release, like go breathe hard, go sweat. And then I feel better.
Yeah, I do that too. Yeah, for me, usually a big source of stress as a teacher is it's actually usually the administration, or like the things, not actually the teaching part. Because for me, I'll start my day, like maybe I'm in a bad mood, like maybe it's rainy and I didn't have coffee. But usually my students actually make me feel better. And maybe that just means that I enjoy it. But I think usually your students, they're excited to be learning. I'm interacting with them. And I've noticed usually after a class, I'm in a better mood than when I started the class.
That's nice.
But I think otherwise, yeah, if you're really frustrated, I think talking with people, venting your frustrations, and just realizing that teaching is hard, and a lot of jobs, they do, in my opinion, ask too much of teachers.
That's
Whether
true.
the classes are too big, they haven't hired enough teachers, you're not trained enough, the parents are just not support, like
A lot of things going on, a lot of difficulties, but I kind of think of it like if you're on an airplane and they say, well, if there's an emergency, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on someone else. And I think as teachers, we tear ourselves into little pieces for everyone around us, trying to help our students and help other teachers. And then we've also got life at home. I think the most important thing is, like you said, Sam, is take care of yourself, exercise, treat yourself to a healthy meal, try and get enough rest. Actually, one of the questions Kev has here is like, do you have 4-hour siestas in Spain? So get enough rest. So take care of yourself first. And once you've taken care of yourself, and I know even that is a big ask for many teachers out there. Once you've done that, then try and, do other things, talk to other teachers, find someone that you can share your problems with, and help your students. And I think that's very important. So how about this? Do you have 4-hour siestas in Spain?
We wish.
I take a half an hour siesta,
Yeah.
but I'm like an old person. I don't know.
Oh, I mean, the siesta is definitely a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on your work, your work schedule and your life. But half an hour is kind of a sweet spot, because you like rest, but then you're not like groggy when you get up,
Yeah, but a
it's
lot of
very difficult for me. I can't take naps. I
Mhm.
can't sleep on public transportation. I can't take naps. I mean, here in Korea, people just fall asleep anywhere, and they sleep and then they wake up.
really.
Subway, bus, anywhere, and I'm so jealous. But I watched this one interview with a UFC fighter. It was Khabib, and he said, "Well, you train and you work in the morning. He takes a 2-hour nap every day, and then he works at night." Now, schedules are different, but I think rest is important. Erica, you were about to say?
Oh, I mean, the schedule is, you'll notice in Spain, like 2 o'clock, they eat lunch and they have a big lunch. And then a lot of businesses close like from 2 to 5. So people usually go home, have their big lunch, maybe have a short rest. But it's kind of like this time that splits up the day, but it doesn't mean they're sleeping for 3 hours. Mostly eating and taking a little rest.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Eureka, I saw some of your videos, and besides teaching in person, you are also, I don't know about you, Sam, I haven't seen any content on it, but Eureka, you've taught online a lot, and I really like the activities you do. And a lot of teachers come and now as teachers, we have to learn how to teach online too. So Rosie is here. Hi, Rosie. And she asks, I've just come. Can you share experiences with online teaching? So let's start there. What experiences do you both have with teaching online?
Yeah, I started like a lot of people with COVID. Kind of had to panic learn how to do it. Also, at the time, I was coordinating like over 100 volunteers who had individual students. And a lot of them, were like retired or all ages, but a lot of older people. So I found myself needing to train volunteer teachers on how to teach online. So I did make, a few videos with some resources. I did some workshops on like websites I like to use, online games. But I myself was also learning how to do this. There are so many great programs out there. For me, the challenge is trying, if you have a class online, like trying to create a community that's kind of like a classroom where you have students talking with students, like where people get to talk a lot. So for me, I used breakout rooms like on Zoom a lot. So you can put your students in different rooms. And kind of doing like a flipped classroom, like sending them the material or the content they're learning. And then when you're in class online, that's when you're trying to get them to use it to do more speaking.
I say the exact same thing. So I'm really happy that, as teachers, we start doing the same thing, because you notice results. If you do the flipped classroom and you send them the material or some vocabulary, now you don't have to spend that time in class, going over it, and they can focus on speaking. How have the students been online? You've done groups, individuals, and how do you think? Have a lot of them? I feel like a lot of my students have gotten used to it. At the start, they might be a bit shy to talk, but once it becomes a regular thing and it's expected of them, it's actually been quite good. So, what has your experience been with students online? How do you see their view on learning?
I think it's expected now. I mean, we were talking about working with like a teacher training course from the government here, and we were saying, yeah, we think it'd be really fun to do it in person, because it was going to be for like preschoolers, so there's a lot of physicality, to use. And they were like, yeah, everybody wants to do it online now. Like nobody wants to leave their house and go to a place and have the class. So it seems, from what I've seen, like people are used to it, and they even expect it, because they can sort of wedge a class into their busy schedule easily, if they're working remotely already, or, they don't have to, it just cuts down on travel time and other things.
Okay. Well, yeah, definitely. I think that's part of life now. It's not going to go away. Instead of, it's expected of teachers to be able to teach online effectively, and for learners, to go to classes and learn something. So yeah, we've got to learn that as teachers, and find ways to reach our students. Now, let's talk a little bit before BM. I'm going to get to your question, some of your questions next. But ladies, let me ask you about your content, because you've got a great YouTube channel creating a lot of evergreen material. That means that it will always be found about very relevant topics. You've also got a website that I think is really well hosted, and you're starting to create courses to reach students. So can you tell us a bit about what you have done and what you would like to do with your YouTube and website in the future?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I started the channel like 2 years ago or a little more. So again, during COVID, I had used YouTube videos like forever in my classes, ever since I started. And it was always something I used to make videos like with my friends, like in middle school. So I was always interested in video creation, but
I want to see those, by the way.
yeah, they're somewhere. But I worked as a musician. I worked at the nonprofit. I taught piano. So I just didn't have the time. And then the pandemic rolled around and I thought, wow, I have this time. I should try doing this. Because no matter how much great content is out there on YouTube, you always run into, you really want a certain video and it doesn't exist. So my goal was kind of to create the content that didn't exist yet. And I think the direction we've taken, I think they call it edutainment. So education, entertainment. So we try to make it fun. We have a theme for every video, but usually there's like a storyline, there's characters. Because learning should be fun and language is fun. And teaching language, I mean, it's a tool, so you can use all kinds of things to teach the language.
I really like the stories and you guys interacting and you're taking it outside and you put in props. It's really fun. And there's a lot of educational material in there. Have you created PDFs on the conversations between you, or some material that you can use for learners based on those lessons?
That is on the wish list. That is absolutely something we'd like to do, especially for like, we have a Patreon for people who sign up for Patreon and who want to take, it's like some people I'm sure aren't interested in that. They want to watch the video or they watch one because they are interested in the theme. But people who want to go a step deeper, go a step further, that's absolutely something we would like to do. We have not had time to do it yet.
Maybe enough time. No, I'm sorry to spring that on you. I was just curious.
Absolutely, we've thought about it. Yeah.
You're making this great content, and I can definitely see that. You just keep on pushing it out, and eventually, I think the algorithm's going to pick it up. That's my personal opinion, because it's worth seeing and worth learning from. What would you like to do in the future with the channel?
That's a great question. Well, I mean, with the channel, I think we've talked about like different methodologies as well. I think this methodology is working really nicely, sort of a 10-minute story centric kind of lesson, and like sprinkling in idioms and useful phrases and very realistic kind of situations. But we've talked about other modes, other ways of doing it. Like, for example, if we were an alien that didn't know anything about the U.S., like about Earth, how would we view Earth? And when you move to a new country, that's kind of how you feel, right? And so just sort of different tactics or modalities for how to keep it creative, obviously, because that's sort of what we enjoy doing. But I could see us like adding different flavors of videos.
I think it's very interesting, and bringing yourself to the front too, all your different hobbies and the things that you're excited about, to bring that into the videos, and I'm sure viewers will enjoy it. By the way, guys, in the comments, what kind of videos would you like to see from Breathe English in the future? Put some topics down there, and maybe we'll find something that we can make something on. We've got, and then, this is something that comes up, is I really struggle with my introverted personality. How can I handle this in my classroom? Now, for some of my viewers that have watched me know that, I don't like to put that label on people. I don't like to label myself as introverted or extroverted, because when I was younger, I would think, oh, I'm shy, I don't want to talk to people, and now I'm okay. I can talk to two other people. So
Yeah.
what about this? How about you guys? How do you see someone that might be a bit shy or difficult to express themselves with their students? Any tips on how to handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I've struggled with that, with shyness. I think you can learn skills. When I taught in a classroom, I saw myself, you've heard the like sage on the stage versus guide on the side. So
No.
yeah, it's a cheesy phrasing, but it's like more conventional classrooms. It's like the teacher's in front, all eyes are on the teacher. They're like dispelling the information. But that formula is it's in the past. Like now it's as a teacher, I see that I should be more of a guide. Like I'm facilitating the class. So maybe I need to be in front a little bit of the class. Maybe I don't need to be in front at all. But most of the class, it's like I have set up, whether it's activities or projects or whatever, where really the students take the central role and I'm more there guiding them. So maybe I'm more like working with smaller groups, making sure everyone understands. So for me, it helps really limiting the time where I'm the center of attention, because I don't necessarily enjoy that. And I think it's also better teaching.
I think what I take from it is, plan for success. So if you're going into the classroom, you've got your activities that you want to do, and it's focused on the students. You're just the one that you go in, you say hello, you talk about it, you teach whatever, but you've got those things that you want them to do. So you take the pressure off of you and it's on the students. And I think that makes it better. And then BM has another question here about time management, especially for in class. Now, we've had it before where, either you don't have enough time for your class or you've got too much time. And I think that's quite stressful, not enough work, and you're so stressed. What are some ways that how do you run your classes, especially when it comes to time management?
Well, I think definitely not having enough content for the time is the worst situation.
Always overplan.
So I think we both agree, like, have enough activities. Like if people are just like very, tight-lipped, not saying anything, okay, we're going to change the activity, we're going to do something else. It's just to keep things lively. But for me, like I'm a sucker, like if there's an interesting conversation happening, or if we're spending more time on something, or I think that like somebody has a really good question and we want to get to the bottom of it, I let it go. Like, I don't care. I think it's better to have that quality and that sort of where everyone's engaged than to cut it short because I want to do something else with the lesson.
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes from experience. But when I plan a whole lesson, I'll write like, this might take 20 minutes or 5 minutes. I estimate. But Sam's right. Like sometimes you have to go with the flow. Like once I had a volunteer bring his beehive in, and I was like, okay, 20 minutes. We'll talk about the beehive. We'll ask questions. No, it was 2 hours. They were still asking questions about his beehive. They were so interested, and I'm just like, they're using English.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah,
you got to be fluid. Yeah, definitely overplan, have enough, and then it also happens in a class where you go over a topic or something happens and you just realize, wait, we've got to cover this since we're on it. And so I think build in ways for you to either catch up or whatever you want to do, or also, like we said, overplan and have more things in there. Now, here's a good question. Differences between boys and girls in class. I don't think I've covered this really in my live streams. But there's definitely a difference between, sometimes between boys and girls in class. How about Spanish boys and girls? Is there a difference between, the way that they learn or the way that you teach them?
I don't know about that. I don't know about a different way, like a different approach for boys versus girls. I will say that if I am with a group of all boys, they are going to be more rowdy than if there are some girls sprinkled in.
Yeah.
So like a mixed classroom for some reason here is so much better than just boys or just girls. And I would say that for the girls too. But I mean, Spanish people, like, they love to talk. Oh my God. And from an early age, like we would be in a 3rd grade classroom. They're like 8 years old. And, you know, we're explaining something and then you say like, can you guys be quiet? And they're like quiet for 1 second. And then they're just like, so anyways, what I was saying, like, they're so social. They're
The adults
so
too.
social. Yeah, the adults. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I think it's nice when they want to talk, and you know, you just you let them, you know, you guide them into talking about certain topics. I don't know, it's interesting. So teaching at university, I've got a lot of my students, the boys, they've got mandatory military duty. So they've got a conscription model, and then they come back to university, and there's a certain way that the boys, I've got to well, the men, I've got to list the things out for them. You know, I expect this. And with the girls, you know, I give them the idea of what I want them to achieve, and they kind of get to it. Whereas the boys, it feels like they need to check it off, and that might just be with here, but it's there's definitely something noticeable about the way that they go towards it, and how girls would. But I mean, that's just a random thing that I noticed recently.
But I think that's good. That's good teaching in general, like giving people lists and like goals, even though I don't personally need that as a learner, but I think a lot of learners do
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think the students need to know, you know, what do I need to do to reach something? What I like to do is with a lot of activities is to also show them what the perfect outcome is, what I want them to achieve, what maybe a good outcome is, and what I don't want to see. And then that also gives them a clearer idea of what they want. Now, let's say you've got students. We've got a question here from BM again. He says, how would you help your students master English? Now, that's a difficult question. How would you go about learning English if you were let's say you're at A2 B1, and you wanted to learn English to improve and maybe reach fluency? How would you go about it if you were a learner?
Well, we have done this with other languages. So
done this with Spanish.
Yes. Well, I think as much immersion as possible is number one. Like, if you can be in an atmosphere where people are speaking your target language, that's amazing. You can create those situations for yourself with a lot of listening, right? Listening to podcasts in that language, watching videos. Podcasts I like because there's not the visual cue context. So you're literally, with just listening, you're really focusing on, okay, am I understanding what is being said? Because I have no visual aid to help me. And then what I used to do is I would like fixate on like a new phrase that I wanted to learn, or a new, like if I found myself in a situation where I couldn't express what I wanted to express like over and over again, I would really focus on that. Like, okay, the next time I drop something, you know, how am I going to say, oh, I dropped it. Like I built my tools little by little, because you can't learn everything all at once. You have to focus a little bit.
Yeah. I think, I always like keeping like a little notebook with my new words that I could keep in my purse, keep in my bag, because there's those times where you're like, oh, I want to learn this word, and you can write it down or you can quiz yourself. I think having some kind of structure, like if you're at A2, it's like there's quite a bit of grammar you still need to learn. So if you can do there's tons of great software out there. You can do it all online. You can find a teacher, find a class. But then apart from that, just choose things that you're interested in. So if you love cooking, you know, try to build your language learning around that activity, because you already have the interest. But I think having some structure, but also just exploring and having fun with the language.
Yeah, I think we're very fortunate if you live in a country where you're surrounded by it. So immersion is so important. And then what I love is, so let's say you don't live in a country where you want to learn the language, then you're going to listen to podcasts and you're going to build these bricks, the foundation, step by step, by learning these words, or and trying different methods too that suit you. If it's listening to music, if it's watching dramas, or if it's finding, or if it's studying grammar bit by bit. It's just building it yourself up for success. And also I like the idea of what you said about, let's say this situation happened, so now
Mhm.
you're learning how to act in certain situations. And I guess that's what role plays are for, to put our students into that situation so that they kind of practice it, so that when it happens in the real world, it happens. Now, here's a good question, another one by Kev. And he says, or he asks, what is the biggest contrast with education in the USA?
Hmm. Education in Spain, I'm assuming, versus education
Yes.
in the US. And I wonder, I mean, is that just language learning or not? I mean, in general, like,
Yeah.
I've been in Spanish schools for 5 years, right? They are so focused on testing, like tests, as in like every unit, there's an exam. And I'm talking about first graders who can barely write their names. They have an exam after after every unit. And like that, I was like finger painting in first grade, So I think in the US, we do a lot of group projects. We do more exploration. We do, like an essay, an individual essay, a lot of essay writing. I remember a lot of that in high school. And here it's very it's definitely tied to the books. And with like they try to measure, like, okay, if you pass this test, that means you understand it, right? Well, okay, but like for how long, and at what depth? And there was no speaking in that exam, so yeah.
There's not a lot of public speaking like in the US. I never realized how much public speaking we have in US schools, and then here it's like zero. And even like I worked at a Spanish startup for a few months. It wasn't a good fit, but but even I noticed how the adults, how they presented themselves, like they didn't have public speaking skills, like into their 30s. So it's interesting. Yeah, that piece is very different for me.
And I think as far as learning English specifically, like I like watching my kids in classes try to read English, they have no idea, because on the page English is hard. There's so many rules and so many spelling weirdnesses that come from all of the different influences, right? So they don't, no one ever taught them about the silent E at the end of a word and how it changes it to a long vowel. So they don't know. So they say, lock instead of lake. So in the US, we learn those rules. We learn the rules of reading, right? And then from there, when you read something, you understand what it says. But the kids here, they don't teach English the same way. Basically, they teach it as if you already understand your own language perfectly, and it's just as if they're teaching adults.
I feel here in Korea, like they taught for testing too, grammar, reading. That's all great. So you show students that they read everything and they understand the grammar because that's what they've been taught. But it's very difficult. They find it very difficult to either write creatively, or also, like you said, public speaking. Obviously, that's very difficult if it's in English. But it's also what we do back home is we would talk about our ideas, or when you dissect a poem, you're like, okay, what do you think is happening in this poem? And you try and express yourself and your ideas. And that is very difficult if it's not your native language. And I found that, it's trying to get that out of my students is, okay, so what do you think about this? What do you think will happen? So I feel like that building curiosity, creativity, and helping our students express their ideas, is something that we find very difficult here. Well, we've got 10 minutes left. Can you believe it?
Wow, that went
so quick, right?
You're a great
yes.
Well, no, you guys have been doing all the talking. We've had great questions from BM, from Kev. So what I like about creating a YouTube channel and you putting courses on your website, by the way, guys, go and subscribe and check out their website too, is that you have a reach. We can teach students, we can teach 8 students in a class, we can teach one-on-one. But when you create these videos, thousands of people could potentially watch it. And when you create courses, we can give ideas to teachers, but when you create a course, you can actually help so many. So I'm curious, in the future, what kind of courses you've got one course on there now, and what kind of courses do you think would you like to create to help English learners or teachers out there?
Yeah, so the course we're currently putting together, which you can go take the first lesson of it. It's up there.
Free.
It's free too. English for Professionals. So at least in Spain, we've noticed a lot of people, they use English at work. And a lot of times they work remotely, people from other countries, but they don't feel confident in their English. So this is a course for adults who are working or plan to work in English, or at least partly in English. So the course goes through like interviewing, writing resumes, networking, emails. What other topics?
Yeah, resolving conflict, asking for things in a way that you will receive them, client interaction, meetings, presentations, all that stuff. Yeah, so many people say, I work in English, but I don't want to speak it ever.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well,
so that course for them.
Probably work on that.
And probably after this course, we would like to make kind of a beginner English course.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, especially people we've met like retirement age, but who want to travel, they never got the opportunity to learn English. A course for them. So kind of the basics for getting around or meeting people who don't speak your native language.
Yeah.
We would love to do some courses for teachers as well. So especially if you're an English teacher and maybe English is not your native language, course for those people.
Well,
Yeah.
it's so we have so many ideas, and I'm so glad that you're actually, you're doing it. But it's just like we said before, when you're learning a language, you're basically doing it step by step. And when you've got all these brilliant ideas, it does take time, and it also, you've got to apply yourself step by step. So no, I'm so happy that you're putting contents out there, and I'm sure many English learners and teachers can learn about it. Then we've got another question here. Guys, put in your questions now. We've got 10 minutes left. Zed asks, any tips for almost fluent English speakers who have trouble improving? You've already given so many great tips from your own experience learning a language. What about almost fluent learners? Any tips there?
It can be really frustrating, that point where you're like, oh, I'm almost there. Like I'm almost being able to express myself in a way I would like to. I think beyond putting yourself in situations where you can speak, where you can produce the language, because at that point you can probably listen very well. You're probably reading very well. So thinking about production, where can I speak? Can I look for a language exchange? Can I do one of these online language exchanges? Writing. A lot of people think they write English really well, and they don't, because they're just translating from their native language. So how can I write more, create language? And, it's hard to get somebody to correct it for you, but I mean, that's where classes come in. I think classes are still very, very useful tools for pushing through and perfecting and getting those last errors corrected.
Excellent. Yeah, I think if you have a teacher, especially work as much as you can, but if you can find a teacher to help you iron out those final difficulties,
and recognizing that it's not just like, okay, one class and like I'm fixed, like I got it. Like it's just a long process.
It's a process, and it helps if you've got one specific online teacher to do that. Otherwise, join groups, find people. It's about like we said, immersing yourself in an environment where you can improve, and also take in a lot of ideas, from native speakers. Actually, Letty lives in Ceuta, I think I said it right, in Spain. Yeah, how is the environment there? Are you still going to live in Spain? Do you love it there? Will you settle down? Or what will you do there? Or are you interested in moving back to the States?
Oh,
Oh, look at that. Life here is really good. I think especially Valencia. For people who don't know, it's like,
Don't sell it too much.
Yeah, I won't sell it, yeah.
Don't sell over.
no.
It's okay. It's like, okay.
No, I mean, I'm a 5-minute walk from the beach. The climate's really mild. Like, it's sunny over 300 days a year. I think the culture, Spanish culture is so rich. The people are so welcoming. So it's a great place to be. It's coming from the US, it's fairly inexpensive to live here.
I just think there's a different priority. Like the
Yeah.
priority in the US for me is, make as much money as you can. And that's, and that means you're doing it right. And like here, it's not about making as much money as you can. It's about what are you doing with your time? How are you enjoying yourself? Are you seeing the people you need to see? Are you like, do you have time to go have a beer with a friend? Like that's kind of more important than all the money that you can make.
Yeah, living well.
Enjoying life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that makes it hard to go back to the States.
Yeah, I feel very like settled and community wise here. It's unfortunate that a lot of like my dearest friends and family are very far away, but
Yeah,
I find it too. I mean, I'm here in Korea and I work, and I feel like if I live somewhere else, maybe I would have a different quality of life where, it would be more social and I could meet more people and focus on hobbies. But then the other side of me is like, Eric, just work and hustle and create and do so that so that in the future you could have that life instead of it's like that story. I heard the story of this man goes fishing and he catches 2 fish, he sells one, and then he enjoys it with his family, and then he rests the rest of the day. And then another man came to him and said, listen, why don't you catch 4 fish and then sell 3 of them, and then you can employ someone else to do it, you can build a business and you can make lots of money. And then the other man asked, and what then go home and enjoy a dinner with your family when you could be doing that all along. So yeah. It's difficult. It's like having ambition but also enjoying your life. Okay, so we've got some questions here. I just want to quickly finish with the last couple of questions. I've got Liesel. I want to ask your question. You've been helping me so much. From Zimbabwe, Liesel, are you using a curriculum to build your course for students, or are you just using your experience?
Well, the current course we're making, it's not really geared towards passing a certain test. So it's not like pass your C1 exam. It's for people, it's practical English to use at work. So we're using our own experiences working at different companies and our experiences teaching to create this course. So teaching the language you need to have those conversations, do that networking, whatever you need to do, talk with clients in English. So it's more of a practical, like, use this now in your work versus pass this exam.
Yeah, and it definitely does come from like our professional experience and working in different job situations.
That's awesome. Now we've got AKL asked, do you recommend a full grammar course for beginner classes? What do you think about that? Teaching beginners, do you focus on grammar, or do you think it's just exposing them to English and getting them to interact?
I think it's a little bit of both. It's like building a house. You need some structure there, but you also need it to be comfortable and like interesting. And I mean, that's not a great metaphor, but
no, it's perfect. I understand it. Yeah.
But without a little bit of structure, it's hard to really talk and express yourself, but you need something interesting for people to want to talk about. So, I think a good beginner class will have grammar, but it will also have like, I did a B, I guess my first class in Spain was a B1 for Spanish.
Yeah.
And our teacher was so lovely. And she, showed us the traditions of Spain and the holidays. And so, we were like, wow, this is so amazing. So we're learning about something, but also with the language. So it was really a good harmony there. Yeah.
Yeah, I've experienced both. I've experienced like a class where they're just teaching grammar and you're like, are we ever gonna practice this, use it? And then I used to work at a language camp for Norwegian. So everything was just immersion. But there was like no structure. It wasn't like, this is how this works. It was just like, you're immersed in it, so you'll learn it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that works either.
Yeah. No, I think it's a bit of both. Now, the last one is our friend Paul from Canada, the grammar detective. He asks, what challenges have you faced in building your YouTube channel, and what do you want to do? I think we asked about what do you want to do with it in the future. We've spoken about that. But what challenges have you had with YouTube?
Oof. Oh, me.
Well, I mean, you struggled for so long.
I almost quit several times, especially doing it on my own.
Don't quit is rule number 1.
I know it's a marathon. YouTube's a marathon. I think just keeping a schedule, like, Eric, like putting out content every week, and you have other things going on, you have a job, and like sticking to that schedule. Maybe you need to give up other, you can't go out with your friends one night because you have to get that video done. So I think just the sheer time it takes to produce quality content, it can be a challenge to keep up that energy.
Yeah.
But the feedback we get is, I think it's great motivation to continue.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining. For everyone out there, do you want to promote anything? Do you want to say goodbye and tell people to go somewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for all the amazing questions, everyone. It was so cool. I mean, what an awesome audience, really.
Yes,
like
very
so international and so engaged and so interested in language learning and teaching. Very, very jealous. Very cool. So for us, I mean, we have our YouTube channel, Breathe English. That's BREATHE English.
Yes. And then breatheenglish.com is our website. So in there, if you're interested in trying the first lesson of the professional English course, just click on courses at the top and it'll take you there. You can sign up for free.
Yeah. So we would love you to check out our channel and our website and do the first lesson free and tell us what you think.
Excellent. Guys, thank you so much for joining, and everyone out there, thank you for watching and your amazing questions. We'll be back next week. Everyone have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.